Happy out of protection, everyone. I'm gonna do just a final little survey update, see what we got for the age, if anything's changed, anything's cool, stuff like that. This is the last tick before protection ends, so everyone's well set in what they've picked, and we've got our full amount of people in. So, not a lot of change from what we saw before. We still have those 47 sages on Avian. Really curious to see where those are coming from, if that's like one or two or three cores out there, or there's just a lot of random avian sages out. Avian paladin's still pretty high. I'm not entirely sure I buy the pick. I mean, avian cleric's a classic, but usually you're looking at a fair bit more minus losses built in. Avian warrior, I think warrior on pretty much every attacking race is going to feel really good. Really low on the war hero count across the board. We have a couple undead, couple orc, couple avians, and for some reason, 15 dark elf. I'm gonna guess there's a single dark elf core out there. Um, Sort of an odd pick. I guess the idea is that you've got the mind focus. You can soak more honor by being a wizard and an attacker. You're pretty far from being defensive. Like Dark Elf this age is not a great defensive pick at all. So maybe that's their thought. I mean, the offense is fine. Really expensive elite, but Warrior Hero gives you a little bit of economy. Yeah. I think there should be a lot more war heroes, but there isn't. Tacticians. I think Undead Tactician's a great choice. Tactician gives you a lot, and Undead already has a lot. The issue, of course, is going to be just how many elites can you get, but combining Plague with having 5 generals is excellent. And I think a tactician beats a warrior straight up. So if you want to stay undead, you want to be giving plague and countering plague, but you want to beat this big monster of a pick here, I think undead tactician's a great pick. What else? Paladin. Not sure what the point is there. I mean, you're stacking minus casualties, but it's not super effective. I think maybe the goal is to just use those self spells for a little bit more defense, or maybe just really go for attrition. Raider, I don't know why there's not more raiders on undead. I guess people just really prefer the warrior because of the plus wages and the stuff like that. But most of our raiders are on human. Only 3 on gnome. People talked about gnome raider a lot and gnome warrior quite a bit. We don't see a lot of those. What we really see is just these gnome rogues. I'm not sure if those are going to be pure rogues or hybrid rogues. I think both is fine. I think gnome rogue early age certainly fares better. I think once halfling gets their elites, they're going to be pretty strong. They're going to start stacking that cunning science damage, scaling into the late age, very strong. But you just sort of have a medium amount of a lot of different kinds of rogues. Like there's the same amount of rogues as there is mystics, but every mystic is an elf mystic, except for these couple people here, couple people here. See, this is weird. See, Dryad Mystics, excellent. Avian Mystic, excellent. Dark Elf Mystic, why not? Like, this is an amazing abolish ritual tool. Um, Gnome Mystic, not amazing. I think Human Mystic's very strong. You've got Rev stacking with good offense, stacking with a lot of small bonuses, stacking with Fountain of Knowledge. Actually, this is a Halfling. I don't know about Halfling Mystic. It's fine, probably. Human Mystic's what I meant. Orc Mystic's totally fine. I think I actually know who the solo Orc Mystic is. And only 3 Undead Mystics. You see a lot of undead mystics classically, so I don't know why not. Um, I think any undead with Revelations is going great because you get that science boost, which becomes an economic boost, which helps you get those elites. So, similar reason I'm surprised there's so few undead sages. 47 avian sages and only 4 undead sage. See, the thing with avian is their elites are actually relatively cheap. You're going to get them early. So, you're not getting as much out of the economic boosts from sages on avian as you might on something like undead or dryad, where you really need an expensive elite. I guess maybe the idea is that because you get those elites sooner anyways, you just start learning people and you sort of steamroll your science? Maybe? A lot of human sages, that makes sense just because humans have Fountain of Knowledge, so it's the highest science potential. Uh, and yeah, that's a fine pick. They've got a pretty decent offense, they've got a nice few spells. It is actually annoying with human +1 self spell mana. When you're casting Rev, Fountain of Knowledge, Salvation, all your other regular spells, Minor Protection, yada yada yada, it really annoying. If you're at 100% and all you're doing is casting self spells, it's not so bad. But if you like cast Ritual down to 30% mana once, you just never recoup the mana. I swear to goodness, you just stay without mana forever. It's I played a human sage a couple ages ago, and I had a problem where I had really good WPA, and I could just never offensively use it because I was constantly out of mana. But, you know, stacking Sage with combat gains is really strong. We saw Saps with his Orc Sages that one age win pretty well. So there's a lot of late age potential there. We'll see where we actually see the human Sages, if they're in War Kingdoms or Micro, spread out or together. Who knows? So there's so few hybrid mystics, but there is a lot of hybrid rogues. Only 4 avian rogues makes me sad, because last age my kingdom had 3 of them, and we were all like marquises and counts and doing really good. And they only got better. Dark Elf Rogue, I'm not sure what the point is here. I guess Dark Elf is naturally an attacking caster, and then you add Rogue to that. I think if you're trying to do that, you're probably more likely to see success with the Heretic, but maybe the Rogue's fine. Dryad Rogue. I think Dryad Rogue is going to be a bit underwhelming just because you can't just casually throw 10% barracks on them. And the casual 10% barracks is pretty nice. Like, I really considered Orc Rogue last age. I thought that was a really good pick. I think it's still probably a really good pick. But I really like throwing in 10% racks on a lot of races, and I think Dryad Rogue might get a little bit left behind. Dwarf Rogue's a classic. I don't actually think you need the building efficiency bonus to run rogues anymore as hybrid. That used to be really important because you wanted your rogues to have maximum TDs and stuff like that. But nowadays, I don't think you need max TDs on a hybrid rogue. You don't have to worry about getting massacred on a hybrid rogue because you can't get ET spammed at the start of war. Like, my problem with hybrid rogues was that they're permanently like 1 WPA because every war they're getting massacred, and they don't have a lot of pump time for wizards because they're usually replenishing elites and stuff. However, now that you can't get ET'd to 0% stealth at the start of war, and you don't just naturally get blown away on spells these days, like Chastity's not as strong, you're not getting ET'd, there's very few amnesia casters. So hybrid rogues, I think, are excellent, because you're always getting to use your full stealth, and like that's double the stealth output of any other war, right? Like, normally a hybrid rogue, the war starts, you have no stealth, and then you use, 1 to 2 ops a tick for 2 days. And it's like, oh, good, that's like effectively 100% stealth used. Whereas now you got to use 100% stealth at the start of war, and then use 100% stealth by the end of war. So yeah, see how it goes. I think the dwarf getting a little bit of extra offense this age is going to make them great at hybriding. Elf rogue, like, there's not that many more elf rogues than dwarf rogues. Elf is excellent for rogue. Just the fact that you pump these D specs, your first end of war ceasefire, you can run 80% guilds or 60% guilds and 30% universities, and you'll still be unbreakable. And you'll have a shitload of runes. You can get a bunch of free TB, or you can cast writs for your team. Um, spell duration's fine. The fact that you can run 20 guilds in war as an elf rogue and get the same benefit as, an elf mystic at 12% guilds. You can cast these spells on easier targets. You can farm mana, farm honor with your mana, farm honor with your stealth. If you even slip in a few elites, 4 elites per acre, 6 elites per acre, 8 elites per acre, you're farming honor on all 3 fronts really quickly. So I think Elf Rogue is an amazing steamroll pick. I'm surprised we don't see more of them, but oh well. Fairy Rogue, I think, is the best scaling province there is. Best defense, best TPA, best WPA, best building efficiency, best spell. I think Fairy Rogue is pretty much the pick of the age, but we'll see who actually bothers. And it's probably not me, no. But yeah, pretty much everyone's just running Halfling. Makes sense. But there is a lot more Elf Heretics. I think the Heretic number went up a fair bit since my last video. I think it was close to just 100, and this only had like 30 or 40 picks. So I think people came around to the idea of picking a bunch of Elf Heretics right at the end of Age. I'm not sure, or end of freeze time. Not sure about the Undead Heretics. That's very weird to me, because you don't really get to use that stealth at all. So why aren't you just a Mystic? Very, very confusing. Fairy Heretic, similar to Elf Heretic, it's got that, you don't come onto the scene as hard as a fairy, but once you get established, you're probably looking pretty good. Shitload of dwarf artisans. There's going to be a huge buff to those people based on their net worth. You look at this 5.75 net worth on a dwarf elite versus 7.5, and they have more offense than they used to. It's going to be super fun. They've got that Illuminate Shadows. So you're trying to go through their watchtowers? Unlikely. They've got that built-in artisan bonus, minus 30% arson effect. And then you stack Illuminate Shadows on top, and your watchtowers are high BE. They're just impossible to night strike. And then they have their full elites. They can tank up if they want to because of their elite home. They have decent offense. They probably have a shitload of good BE guard stations with mist, and you can't arson them either. You can't raise them away. So it's like, well, I can't really chain them effectively. Can't really night strike them effectively. What can I do? I can cast on them. Wow. If you fireball them really low, then when you do get around to chaining them, it's not gonna be as deadly. But, over time you can lower that building efficiency and start to break through, but you're still just wasting a lot of time on them. My suggestion to anyone playing Dwarf Artisan is make sure you actually have enough offense that if I choose to ignore you, you're a threat. That's your goal, is if you're not being addressed, you need to be as threatening as possible. So really make sure you have that offense, whether you're stacking TGs or Onslaught or however you're really pushing the offense to the next level. So I think those will be pretty fun to play against. Are there any other major picks I sort of skipped over? Dryad Warrior is going to be hilarious. I can't wait to see 600 OPA. I think poor Orc is criminally underpicked. It makes sense. Everyone was Orc last age, and it just kind of feels worse. But, fuck, man, the kill stacking on Orc is insane. You are going to destroy people. Now, you're countered pretty hard by Undead. So you got 2 things going against Orc this age, which is Undead's a really popular pick that counters your main mechanic, which is that kill stacking. And last age, so many people were Orc, no one wants to pick Orc anymore, and they lost their sort of iconic gains bonus. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a pretty standard age. People are going for a lot of default picks, but there's a little bit of fun stuff in there, especially these rogues you see across the game. Fun things like a lot of avian sages. I'm really excited to see how those turn out and what people are doing there. I'm just really excited in general to see how all the dryads end up looking. It's a pity there's only 8 dryad artisans. I would love to see a bunch of 400, 500 OPA provinces week 1 and 2, because you can totally do that with dryad artisan. But yeah, yeah, that's the game. No gnome love, no fairy love, no orc love, no dark elf love. Is what it is. I think that was pretty predictable. I think there's a lot of people that would have told me gnome would be picked a lot, and they were wrong. A little surprised how big human got. I think human grew a lot in the last few days. Like, it's almost as much as the undead now. And it's mostly raiders, and yeah, that's going to be a lot of offense. It's kind of hard to deal with. We'll see how that goes. I think human warrior did fine as well, but just focusing on those horses makes sense to me. Uh, Decent paladin picks. See, I like that. There's no big focus on one kind of paladin, so I think the change was pretty good without forcing races onto people. Tactician, Dryad Tactician's gonna be good. Avian Tactician. Yeah, no one's picking Tactician. I get it. New Warrior and Raider seem so fancy, but Tactician is so strong. Everyone has a lot more offense this age, but no one gained defense. So you're going to be chaining each other way harder. Tactician, that extra speed, that extra general is so good. So, so good. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. Ciao.